Bar staff of Reddit. Have you ever had a man use the Safeword drink escape, and how often does it happen? Story 1. Not an angel shot, but last week I had to meet my abusive ex-wife to talk about some things regarding our kids. I'm a male. I insisted that we needed to meet in public, so she begrudgingly agreed to meet at Chili's. Throughout the entire meal, she was being mean and hateful and cruel to me, but she was also quiet about it. I wasn't crying or anything, on the outside anyway. She was just overly threatening and quiet to me. At a point during the lunch, our waiter thankfully positioned himself behind her and mouthed the following words to me. "Are you okay?" I kind of shook my head no because I was afraid of leaving when the time came. We paid the check and were about to leave when the manager appeared with a waiter. The manager stood between my ex and me and told her, politely, that she needed to leave on her own. Before she could become belligerent, the manager explained to her that he had called the police and that she needed to leave immediately. He then asked me quietly to have a seat and wait. They brought me another drink. The cop showed up quickly and made sure my ex had left. They walked me to my car and then followed me home to make sure I was okay. Not an angel shot, but these workers were angels to me. They paid attention to a terrifying situation and helped me more than they will ever know. Story 2. No, but I have a slightly relevant story. Slightly. It involves a bar and a guy at least. I'm a line cook at 1. I was kind of chilling in the hallway to gauge how busy we were getting so I could possibly take a break before we picked up. A very sweet, kind of nerdy guy got up from the bar and quickly walked towards the bathroom. On his way, he started crying. I walked into the bathroom with him and asked if he was okay. He said his date texted her boyfriend, whom he didn't know about, and some of his friends to come jump the guy because he couldn't afford to pay for all 8 of her cranberry vodkas. He said she was probably serious because he was peeping at her texts as she was nodding in and out. Definitely the bartender's fault for letting her get so fucked up. I told my manager, we put his tab on hold and escorted him out of the back door and hid him in the owner's truck. He was drunk enough that we didn't feel comfortable letting him drive. And Uber may take too long if this beating actually comes along. So I smoke my cigarettes and almost immediately after walking back inside, I hear a douchebag pull in. You know, a guy doing a burnout into the parking lot in his burgundy 1996 Honda Civic with mismatched bumpers and fenders and half of the hood spray painted matte black. I grab my manager and we pretend to have a conversation outside. He walks in, he was alone thankfully, grabs the skank from the bar and walks out. They ask if we'd seen the guy she was with and we told him he was throwing up really bad so we called him an Uber. I know we should have said no, but there were only like 5 people at the bar at the time. Everyone definitely saw him walk through the back door of the kitchen with us. The dude gets pissed off saying his girl isn't paying for the tab and starts throwing rocks at our fucking windows. The owner grabs an old pool cue from the back and holds it above his head ready to kill this dude until the police got there. Super douche and cranberry hose speed off after a few more rocks and a half swing at the owner, which resulted in a full power pool cue to the wrist. We eventually really did call the dude an Uber and paid for the chick's drinks for him. He insisted he paid for his and the Uber, so we let him. Police were upset that we let the victim go before they could get a report and asked to watch our videotapes, which we only have inside, unfortunately. I don't know what happened after that, as I quit shortly after for a better position. Fucking the craziest day at work, though. Story 3. Disclaimer. Where is Angela is a scheme to get people out of dodgy dates in the UK. This happened to me. A man came up to the bar and said, "Hi there, do you know where Angela is?" I wasn't sure I heard him right, so I replied, sorry, what was that? He then repeated, "Do you know where Angela is?" whilst giving me a funny look with his eyes. We had just had a new starter at the company called Angela who was working in the kitchen. The bar I worked at is in a restaurant. The fact he referred to her by name and his facial expression made me think he was a friend or spouse of hers, but he wasn't sure if she was working today or if he was at the right restaurant. I told him I'd check the bar for her. She was in the kitchen, so I went back to the bar and told him to follow me. I then pointed him towards Angela and he glanced over to her and said, "Oh, right, cheers." I then ran out of the fire escape next to her, one of those with a bar to open, setting a loud alarm off. My manager came running in asking what was wrong, and I told him what had happened. My manager stopped the alarm and informed me that "Where's Angela" is a new scheme the police had brought in, but he hadn't got around to telling us. I told my manager that it would have been nice to have been informed. Story 4. Yes, and she was a friend, which was super awkward. Him. A software engineer at IBM, clearly a nice but rather retiring guy in mid-30s who didn't go on a lot of dates by choice. Very soft-spoken, low-key, just looking for a nice dinner after work sort of thing. Her. Recently-ish, 6 months prior, got out of a long-term, rather ugly open relationship in which they were both toxic and abusive to each other. She'd been going to therapy and was looking to start over, i.e. date a new type of guy in a new type of way. She was a friend from high school, so I invited her to come by our place since it was a suburban wine bar and restaurant, mostly frequented by retirees and couples with kids. Very much not the sort of hard-drinking, hard-charging place she used to do. The date. I was busy and not watching, but it apparently went down in flames from the get-go. Her first 4 topics of conversation were: number 1, how she hated her ex. Number 2, how she liked rough sex. Number 3, how she hated religion. And number 4, how his very boring dress was a change. She then started in very aggressively on how much she likes Krav Maga and how no man will ever resist her again. At this point, he was done, and feeling mildly threatened, went to the bathroom, then came to the bar and ordered a safety drink. Like I said, she was a friend, so I was fairly surprised. But safety drinks are something you have to treat with utmost seriousness. So I ordered him an Uber, and 2 minutes later, he was gone. I then had to go break the news to her. I thought she would be fine because of friends and all, but she flipped. Like, literally. Flipped the table and chairs, started throwing shit, and had a total meltdown. All while screaming about all the ways she'd been planning to finally get laid. She's about 5'8", 140 pounds, and I'm 6'1", 225 pounds, and I've had a few years of training myself. So if it came to a fight, I wasn't afraid. But I also wasn't paid nearly enough to fight someone with 8 years of Krav Maga at work. So I just watched and tried to talk her down. The police were called, and she was ultimately tased and arrested. Guns were drawn. It was really ugly. It was a semi-happy ending though. Turns out she had just started varenicline along with the SSRI antidepressant she was already on. And that can have a rare but known adverse reaction that causes very violent behavior. So she ultimately wasn't charged, apologized profusely, paid for everything, and even sent the guy a really nice note. They didn't date again or anything, but it was at least nice to see that I hadn't grossly misjudged her as a person in the long run. Also, mad props to him for situational awareness. Like, damn, he read things well. Story 5. I've never had a man say anything. I've had a woman write down on a napkin and hand it to me via discreet handshake that said, "Call 911, I'm afraid." So I called 911 because, I don't know, you say call the cops, I'm not about to doubt it and be held liable for anything. It turns out the dude had 3 dead cats in his trunk. Homegirl dodged a bullet. Craziest bar story of my whole career. I wonder if the guy had some plan to impress her with that many dead cats. So, how many dead cats have you ever seen at one time? Fewer than 3? Story 6. Not a bartender, but I have known many. Here's one of the stories I recall from an ex-bartender pal. An older woman used the Safeword drink, and as he was calling a cab for her, another bartender told him not to worry. The guy she was with was her husband, and she must have misspoken or he misheard. So he made the drink and brought it out to her. She never went back up to the bar, but he remembers her looking surprised by the drink. He felt that if it was a mistake, she would have come back up. That night, she and her husband died in a crash. He was driving, and his BAC was well into the .1s. My buddy tried blocking it all out, but after a couple more years, he switched careers to animal rescue. He still thinks about that night, and I will randomly bring it up at gatherings. Story 7. I used to work in pretty loud nightclubs, one where one end of the nightclub had a DJ, a pianist, or a swing band depending on the night. So hearing each other was nearly impossible, so we had the tap system. You'd tap the nearest member of staff. 1 tap, I'm behind you or in your immediate space, so they don't knock into you. 2 taps, I need help but it can wait till you're ready. 3 taps, help is urgent, only finish what you're doing if that is urgent. Rough tug, stop what you're doing now and help. DJ and a swing band? Is that so nobody will enjoy the establishment? Story 8. I used to bartend for a gay bar. One night I had a group of guys who seemed to be having a great time. After another round of shots, one sticks behind the bar and asks for an angel shot. I bring him behind the bar and into the office. He was with a couple of coworkers and their friends. He knew the coworkers were gay and would be taking him to a gay bar, but apparently things started to get out of hand when they started trying to grope him. I tell him he can chill in the back room for as long as he needed. He hands me a handful of crumpled dollar bills and asks for a burger. We didn't really serve food besides shitty bar snacks, so I hand him back his money and gave him a couple of bags of chips. About half an hour later, I go to check on him and notice that he's really f***ed up, to the point where he can't even talk. Definitely drugged with something. Luckily, all his asshole friends were still there drinking, so I called the cops. He's rushed away in an ambulance immediately. I shut the bar down so the cops and I can go through the security footage. We managed to catch 2 of the guys he's with putting some powder into his beer. Both of them were arrested, the other 2 were somewhere else at the time and were let go. Story 9. My friend's roommate was the bouncer at our college bar. My friend broke up with his GF and she wanted him back. She kept threatening to make a rape claim against him if he didn't get back together with her. After a month of not talking to her, he thought the situation was done with. I ended up seeing him at the bar one night and we were just drinking and shooting the shit. Out of nowhere, his ex appears and starts flirting with him. We are both frozen in fear because he's got to walk this fine line between not pissing her off and not getting back together with her. Another bouncer bursts in and booms, "I told you to get the fuck out. What's wrong with you two?" He leads us to the back, exit-only door where my friend's roommate was standing. The roommate saw the ex creeping in and had his back. He sent one bouncer to kick us out, I was let back in, and another bouncer to stall the crazy ex so he could escape. Pure bro behavior. Wholesome bro moments are the best. Story 10. I used to bartend and do the front desk at a hotel. One of my regulars was in for the week. Really nice guy. Very friendly and happily married. We also had a cuckoo bird lady staying with us that week. She was decent looking but definitely had crazy eyes. They were both at the bar and they were talking for a while. Him being a nice guy, he didn't want to outright blow her off, I guess. He stops at the front desk to say what's up and we talk for a bit where the girl is just standing behind him. He shoots me a look that says, "Get me out of this situation," as he starts walking towards the elevator. Once he gets in the elevator, I called him back to ask a question about Detroit because I was going there next week. He got off the elevator, but so did she. Then I told the lady there was a problem with a card she had on file. There wasn't, and he slipped away. He called me, thanking me a few minutes later. Story 11. My old regular bar had a drink called Neff. Need escape, please help. Not the name as it is another language, but that is the idea, which was not on the menu. If you order it, they call you a cab, and one of the waiters will wait next to the toilet, allowing you to pay your half there and let you in the back so you can leave unnoticed. It was available for men and women alike to get out of bad dates, though they will not really let you use it to skip on your date. They didn't advertise it really, but regulars knew it existed. They would also actively offer someone that drink if they feel their date is going to the wrong place. I saw a man being offered it once when his date was verbally abusive to him, and a woman whose date was so arrogant and creepy and talked down on her. Never actually used it myself. I actually thought it was relatively common in most neighborhood bars to have this type of drink. Story 12. Yup, had exactly this happen to me years back in a nightclub I managed. The only time I've ever experienced it, so I wouldn't say it happens often. Turned out, the girl he was with was an escort, and she had threatened him saying guys were waiting outside to beat the shit out of him unless he paid up so many hundreds more than what they had agreed earlier. We immediately got the police involved instead of just escorting him out. It spiraled out of control briefly, but all was well in the end. Some good times working in the club industry. She's a woman, so she probably got away with it. Story 13. I worked in a nightclub that was popular with the gay community for a couple of years. We didn't have a Safeword, but one night there were two guys clearly hitting it off. They were flirting and having a great time. After a couple of drinks, one of the guys was clearly being very forward and touchy. The other was not enjoying this and had withdrawn. He attempted to walk back to his friends, but the first guy wasn't having this and pulled him back. In an attempt to get out, the guy started vigorously shaking his head anytime one of the bar staff walked by. After this happened a few times, we realized something needed to be done, and spoke to the guy that was being all forward and explained that we didn't think the other guy wanted to stay at the bar with him. He got aggressive, then started screaming at us because how the f would we know what the guy wanted, although it was blatantly obvious. Eventually, we got security down to escort the guy out of the place so that the guy who had been trying to get away could go back to his friends, have a good night, and not have to leave. Story 14. Here's one from Eindhoven, Netherlands. I was working for a smaller bar with a mixed crowd. For both men and women, we had safe drinks. Women, virgin tequila, men, virgin vodka. In total, I saw these ordered 2 times. The one that sticks with me the most was for Christmas Eve. This night we had mostly gay guys hanging around in the bar and some students. After a while, the students got a lot of attention from one of the gay guys. Hand on the leg, a lot of too personal questions, touching ass, and was told he was straight and not interested. This got the bartender that overheard this on alert, and he put a napkin on the bar near where he was sitting with a red exclamation mark so all staff knew something was up. Student goes to the toilet and the gay guy orders a round of vodka shots. Bartender didn't see student so poured the order and placed it on the bar. Student comes back and gay guy tells him to help him empty the glasses. Student starts drinking and suddenly looks very pale and sweaty. As soon as the vodka is done, gay guy smiles and walks to the toilet. Student looks worse by the second and asks for virgin vodka. At this moment, 2 of the bartenders get him to one of the other bars owned by my boss and call an ambulance. The rest of the crew created a diversion for the gay guy as soon as he came from the toilet, telling him student left for a phone call. The ambulance noticed student seemed to be drugged. Gay guy was drinking something else by then, watered down cocktails without him even noticing. We alerted the police, who found 4 tubes of liquid ecstasy on him. In the end, gay guy was arrested and student was rushed to the hospital. That's Ingesting liquid ecstasy when you're wasted can kill you. Story 15. Emma Bouncer had a regular dude meeting a Tinder date. She was pretty hot and I gave him a thumbs up. She was very polite and nice, but 2 drinks later she became an utter bitch. I walked up to him to see how it was going and he explained while she was in the toilet how much of a bitch she was being to everyone. He came up to me and said how good the whiskey he just had, and I knew straight away. He's a beer man through and through. He wanted to bail. I asked him if he would stay if he didn't meet her, and he nodded. So I kicked the girl out and told her she was too drunk. He met his girlfriend of now 3 years 2 hours later after I kicked her out. You, sir, are a true bro. Story 16. I've had to use it before. I met a very sexually aggressive girl at a bar. I've never felt molested or uncomfortable until this girl. Super attractive. Probably have never heard the word no. I'm not a man whore in that I'll sleep with anyone, and I saw some red flags with this girl. She was very offended I told her I wasn't interested. Just met this girl at a climbing gym that I'm into. And she tried not once, not twice, but 3 times to either blow me or stick her hands down my pants. Very aggressive after I said no. No guy has ever turned me down. Who the are you? I'll do anything for you. Only you. Blah, blah, blah. My dick was saying yeah because she was fucking gorgeous. But my head was saying bad idea. On my receipt for a tip, I asked to be let out the back entrance because of this chick. No questions asked. I went to the restroom and snuck out. Humble brag.